productivity is also about being able to step back and switch things up, right? So I'm gonna talk today about front-end productivity. And so why am I here? Actually, this is my third time already. I am attending all the time these meetups, and the aim for me was to network with you guys and get to know you guys and to introduce myself. But it turns out I'm really shy. It's like really awkward for me to approach people. I'm introvert as most of the coders are. So I thought that I could do a presentation where I introduce you with me, and in turn you introduce you. I get to know you throughout this interactive presentation as well. So there will be Mentimeter going on almost every slide. Hope you guys have your phones with you and you will be able to join. But first things first, I actually thought that we have to say thanks to Tuoms and the team, right? Because we are here because he stepped up and started organizing this event, and I want to give him this small present that I have. I have two of them, so one will be given out later, but now I want to give this one to Tuoms and say thank you. It's not much. My company doesn't produce Wi-Fi routers as from the guy last time. Sorry, but it's still some merch. So about me, I will just quickly skip to the latest one. So my name is Kristaps, lead software engineer, currently specializing in Frontend. Most of my career I have spent in the media companies. So, but then at the end of 2019, Vue had this Vue.js got its traction, and I really wanted to start work solely with Frontend. And there was an opportunity to join Skoro, where I was recruited for the purpose of working only on the front end. Anyone know Skoro, by the way? Has anyone heard? Okay, so that's an Estonian company working with streamlining business processes. We have this huge web application which we are slowly refactoring to Vue.js. And also a fun fact about Skoro, by the way, is that we have 4-day work week. So I'm really proud of that. And wanted to just mention you that you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions about Skoro or 4-day work week as well. Then just send me a message. I'll be happy to answer. Just a second. I have to figure this part out. So I have to click on that screen. So in each of the slides, I will have a Mentimeter, and it looks that I need to click on each of the slides, but I have to figure out where my cursor is first. So, wait a second. Can I do it like this? No. Just a second. Technical difficulties. I'm wondering how can I present in any other way so that I'll be able to click the buttons. Okay, just a second. You can try to join the Mentimeter email. I have to open Mentimeter on my phone, I guess, so that I'm able to start the presentation. Alright, now I'm gonna have to synchronize my slides with the slides of Mentimeter that I have on my phone. So let's go. I wanted to get to know you, what you are working on. So what's your primary framework that you work with, or language? In this case, as PHP language React the framework. But so let's get to know each other. So my main framework that I specialize in is Vue, and I'm happy to see there's some other Vue developers here as well. So are everyone able to join the Mentimeter? Come on, guys, join up. I see 13 participants. Let's keep them coming. I will need your feedback in other slides as well. So. So in each of the slides, I will still have this QR code if at any time you have a problem or you close the browser or whatever, or in these slides where you have the Mentimeter in the full screen mode, then you can use the menti.com and just input the numbers there. So you should be able to join later as well. So I see that, well, it's not surprisingly at all that React is the biggest you guys work most with the React. All right, let's get going. So I want to understand also the seniority level that we have here. And are you able to answer this question?
Press start button, please.
I changed it on the. I don't have to. I'm really sorry. This worked very well when I tried it out.
Let's go.
All right. There's some delay. I'm so sorry. All right. Mostly seniors and leads. Well, I guess this is also expected. So you guys know most of the stuff that I will be talking about. But let's try to jump further, faster. So what's something that you think about when I'm talking about the productivity? So what does productivity mean to you? I know that for me it also starts with like good night's sleep, having a walk outside, not to overdo the hours that I spend coding. So there's a lot of developer experience, ID. These are really good answers, by the way. And some AI tool as well. I think that's really cool. We will talk about those. So I'm really happy that you are already answering that. It seems that my job here is done and you know it all, actually. Really good response. Yeah. All right. There's a lot of them already. So when I'm talking about the productivity, it's from the point where you are introduced with a feature that you have to develop to the point where this feature is actually in production. So if you are, for example, iterating over the code and spending 2 days fighting the bugs, it doesn't mean you're productive. It's just you're busy, right? You're still spending a lot of time to develop something. But the least amount of time you take to develop something, the more features you can develop during any time span. So how is this achieved? It's actually achieved, in my mind, having a good structure and every day, and that we have incorporated in Skoro as well. So in each of the slides there will be also a feedback form where you have 3 questions. And the first one I would kind of ask all of you to answer. So if you are not using this tool at all, then give it a 0. And if you are using it in every project, give it a 5. But if you're like, oh, I use it every other project, then maybe you can rate it somewhere in between. And if you are not using the tool, then you can easily skip the second and third question. But if you are using, then you can rate the ease of setup and how much do you think the productivity is increased. So my aim here is that if anyone is not using the tool, or if you even are using, but you are able to understand, does it help others as well? And maybe if you are not using it, you can see that everyone else is using it and it does help with the productivity, then maybe you should look into it. So let's start with the first one, which is the simplest one of them all. Those are makefile commands. So what you need, you just need a makefile file in your project, and you can easily create shell commands. So these are commands that are ran, and most of these commands are just the shorthand for the more complicated commands. So for example, I don't want to write docker compose up -d. I just write make up in my terminal and it just runs the command. It's also an opportunity to list all available commands in the project, and there's also these helper commands on make help, and you are able to see all the commands that this project has. And it's also an opportunity to create these shell scripts and run just have a run command in the makefile. So we actually, in our main application in Skoro, we have these that we call do nothing scripts, which are most useful when you are onboarding someone on the project. So we have this command, make setup, and it checks whether the Node.js is installed, whether it's the correct version, and some other environment variables. And if something is off, then you just have an error there in the console, and you can right away see what's happening. All right, then the next one, editor config. Also really easy to incorporate in your project. So all you have to do is you need .editor config file in your project root. And so what does it help with? You can easily set up some of the formatting rules that you have, like indent style and size, and the line symbol and char set. So I have witnessed some guys checking out the project and then doing changes for like 10 lines. But what happens if the end of line symbol is not defined? Then it just uses editor's default and maybe replaces all end of line symbols for the open files that you had. And now there's a huge merge diff in Git, even though you changed just a few lines. And I'm really surprised that it's not so much used. I would suggest to incorporate it in every project because it's so easy. You just copy, paste the file pretty much into it. All right, let's go further. Code snippets. This is also an easy one, and so what I'm doing is I have these, for example, in this case, I'm using V-based snippet that I have created in VS Code for setting up the view boilerplate for new component. I'm sure many of you use snippets as well, and maybe someone can share your favorite snippet. Like I have these snippets for new component and for new test file. Maybe there's something that we really need to have in our snippet base as well. Anyone wants to share? No, like Prettier, this is a bigger tool already, so those were like easy to incorporate it and just you can use them out of the box. Well, Prettier is a tool which is, there's a bit more implementation work to be done because there are a lot of rules that you can set up with the Prettier. And what it does, it's a tool that formats your code according to the rules. So you have a bunch of rules like line length and whatnot. And so Prettier formats your code automatically. There's no need to format it yourself, so that you can avoid having all these discussions in merge requests or pull requests where, well, I think you should format your code differently. So in the VS Code, I have set it up on save. So whenever I write code, I don't care about formatting at all. And whenever I press save, so Command S, then it's done for me. And also it takes care of stuff like semicolons. If it wouldn't be there, then in our project we are using end of block semicolons for JavaScript, so it would be added automatically and stuff like that. It just increases the productivity, so you don't have to think about formatting the code at all. Next, ESLint. So this is a bit more like we are taking the complication level of implementing something a bit up. So what is this? This is a tool that analyzes code and finds the problems. So there's a set of rules that you have to set up, and then it's built into most text editors. You have this feedback in the text editors, but you can also run this tool as a command line script, and you can run it as part of the pipelines. And I will touch on that a bit later. So what the ESLint does is, again, in VS Code, I have this instant feedback. So these squiggly lines, the yellow one is warning, and the red ones are errors. So there's a duplicate attribute class, and this doggy variable is declared, but it's never been used. So you have this feedback right away in your editor when you're writing the code that something is off and you should look into it. Yeah, and I can see a lot of you guys are actually using it, so that's great to see. And this is an easy one. If you have ESLint, then style it is just not a problem as well. So it does the same. It checks for the errors, but for problems, but just in CSS or SCSS in my case. So it can quickly show you stuff like empty rule set or duplicate selector. So sometimes there have been some CSS where you spend a lot of time to just debugging and in your browser and just trying to figure out why the CSS is like that. But if you have these tools and they are set up accordingly, then you right away in your editor you can see this information that something is off. All right. So next one. Okay, this is 10 out of 10 in the complicated matrix, how hard it is to incorporate it into a project, I guess. But I think that we shouldn't anymore these days have a discussion whether you need TypeScript or not, right? It's just mandatory. You have to have it in every project. Otherwise, JavaScript is so loosely typed that it's in these complicated applications that we are currently building. You just have to have TypeScript to be able to do it effortlessly. So you have these type errors during the compile time and during the development time as well, right away in your editor. So what does it help with? It's for auto-completion, refactoring, and code navigation, and also for documenting the code as well, actually. So I have an example here. So it's a GIF, it just loops so let's try to catch it from the start. So in the method, this parameter is typed, and you can see that it's quite complicated type. It's an object of properties, and the properties are an array of objects. So just to figure out what to type here, what are the properties, looking at the source code would be taking me so much time, but instead I have this feedback right away here, and also it helps me with the auto-completion, so I can see that the parameters code and ID are mandatory, and then there's an amount in use which is not required. So you just also with the refactoring the code, if you have to replace this block, if the business requirements change, you have this like API of TypeScript. So what's the input and what should be the output as well. Yep. So let's go forward. The next one. So this is a bit of also a compilation of all the tools that I mentioned before, because all of those tools like type checking for TypeScript and linters, they are also, you can also run them as a shell commands, and they pretty much give you an error or an overview of what's not working. And you can implement them in the pipelines, and pipelines are sometimes a lot to set up and easy to set up. I would rate it like even lower, because it takes sometimes it takes a lot of time and fiddling around. But when you have it set, then it's great value because you have this continuous feedback from the automations that you have set, and it also reduces the cost of delivery. Like the pipelines themselves as a tool for delivering or deploying the code is also of great value, because if you need to have an infra guy who's like logging into servers, pulling the code and doing rollbacks manually, that's a lot of cost actually. So this is a part of pipelines that we have in Socorro. Actually, I couldn't even fit everything in the screen. On the right side there are more automated tests and whatnot. But you can see that for PHP we have some of the stuff, some of the tools as well, like code sniffer. That's something that we use for PHP. But in the stage of test.js, we have some steps where we use these same tools, but as a shell command. So in the linter step, there's both style lint and ESLint ran. Then we use, of course, unit tests and type checking. And if any of those fail, we don't even ask our peers for the code review, because we right away know that something is off and there's no point in anyone spending time with your code. This reminds me, there's one step, so unit tests. It's also, I believe that it's very important to incorporate it into your projects, because that's also increased productivity. But I thought that the topic is so wide and big that I can't implement it as one slide. I think it's worthy of the presentation itself. So maybe if someone wants to talk about testing, then I'd be happy to hear someday.
I hope someone is. Want to hear something about testing as well?
All right, and I talked a lot, but now I want you to a little bit to educate me, because I have never used AI tools successfully, and probably I have not put too much of effort into that as well. So today I want to understand, are you guys using some of the AI tools? And I really encourage you all to join and answer. And I see that a lot of people are actually using them. There's a really small fraction that don't use it at all, but most of the answers is towards using them. And it's interesting that most of you use it, but very few actually get the productivity increase out of it. That's interesting. hear or see what AI tools are you using?
It didn't have any speeches, but it really helps.
It does. And I mean, some people expect more.
All right, I'm happy to see that there are tools that I even never heard. That's so cool. So I have this bag here, just some merch from my company, but you have an opportunity to get this by introducing to me. So let's wait for the answers. It looks like ChatGPT is winning.
Who wrote the ending? Who wrote the ending? Makes it like AI.
I think there was like some sort of an AI integration with it.
Yeah, Copilot. Yeah.
Was it just that?
Probably more.
Okay.
All right, is anyone brave enough to sell the value of some AI tool that they are using and they know that I have to look into it and they maybe can sell? All right, let's go.
So actually two things that come to mind. One is when you like get a huge ass error message with like just a lot of lines of code, and just finding that one line of code you actually need to like see what exactly the error is would involve a lot of time. You just copy all of it, paste it into ChatGPT, and ask it what the problem is, and it's usually pretty good at pinpointing like the exact area you need to look at. That's one, and also in regard to ChatGPT, I would say like asking it questions about stuff that's like at the edge of your understanding. So let's say another developer who specializes in something else, like writes some code, and for example they're on vacation or otherwise not available, or I just don't want to disturb them, and I can just get that snippet, paste it into ChatGPT, and ask it like, okay, what was meant by this code, and it's pretty good at describing.
All right, do you use ChatGPT also for creating new code? Do you ask like, make me a toggle button?
Rarely.
Anyone using any other tool for creating code? I'm just wondering. Can you share your experience?
Okay, I'm using GitHub Upload just for autocompleting and start writing it or writing some comment. So I try to comment what I wanted to do, and it magically makes the code happen. So it works pretty well.
How do you get GitHub Copilot?
I use PHP Store.
And it's like a
my
plugin.
platform, yes, it's paid. It's both PHP Store is paid and Dropbox. It's paid. But I think there are plenty of free such tools, so you can use it for free also.
All right. Anything else apart from ChatGPT and Copilot? I have no idea what are Llama and Perplexity or Amazon Q. Amazon Q, I think I have heard of.
I used ChatGPT and Claude. There is a small difference in approach between these engines. It helps. I use it for small parts of the code when you need like a brick in your system, code to save for I don't know about 1 hour or half an hour.
Avoid some boilerplate,
Mm.
right? Avoid writing some boilerplate code that you can just copy paste.
Sometimes you can copy paste, but usually
It just helps with productivity in general,
Yeah.
right? Okay, cool. All right, I will give this back to the first guy who was the bravest one and introduced me with how he used ChatGPT. So there was another hand, right?
Amazon Q.
Okay.
It also completes your terminal commands, so you don't have to remember them. You can write Docker
have to try them out as well. So I think that this is the last question. So what other productivity tools can you suggest? And these are valid, by the way. I actually I love cycling, and I think that when I go and do some physical effort, it just clears my mind, and I can come back to the problem and with a fresh perspective. So I definitely believe that everything like going outside for the walk in the middle of the day also helps. But okay, and we again, nice. Skipping meetings. Oh. What's the MOOCs? No idea. Standing desk. Oh, that doesn't help with productivity. At least for me. Hard liquor, okay. These creative juices flowing, right? Coffee. I have heard this like saying that coffee and pizza is like a fuel, and the coder is someone who turns pizza and coffee into the code. Running, okay, mostly like physical activities, right? Because you have all these tools already in use, so you already use them and make a good use of them. So, what's this LSP? Anyone cares to share? No?
Language server, what's it called, shows your errors and types and everything. That likes the common needing IDs.
Okay. Do you know that one? All right. Thank you. I was happy to share everything I know about productivity with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Question about any?
Yeah, about Prettier, I actually wanted to ask because
Yep.
well, I have like a bit of a love-hate relationship with it because I really like it, but I think it's also just not configurable enough. And like two things that, like in particular, is one when there's like you're like making code for like a lot of different conditions that need to be met for something to happen. And let's say those conditions are like in an if statement. And I have like this really particular way in which I like to structure those. And Prettier always messes it up.
Yeah, it has to be set up properly.
And I think it's not possible to configure it in a way where it just, for example, ignores those.
If you have like a really specific way of how do you want, yeah, it's a hassle. But I actually, well, it's probably OCD thing as well, right?
Well, it's just like the way it formats it makes it actually unreadable for me.
Okay, I understand what you mean. Maybe you have to look into a specific case, but for us, actually, the Prettier is set up the way it is, and you can see that I can format my code any way I want. I don't really care about formatting at all until I press save, and it just automatically done for me. So I really suggest you trying that out and avoid spending time on formatting your code at all. And maybe you just have to like let it go and just have a
I think there's like room maybe for, I don't know, someone to make something that's a bit more configurable, less like forces you certain stuff. Because another thing that I found with like its limitations is, okay, this is like Frontend Meetup, but when you're interpolating stuff into SQL queries, like those SQL strings, it also likes to mess up in a really hard to read manner.
Yeah, I actually work only with the front end in VS Code and in PHP Storm, where I have also some backend code and whatnot, so I don't have the Prettier there. So I only use it only for the front-end work. But it actually brings a good point that you have this certain way of how you want to format code. But imagine if you have a team of 20 engineers and each of you have this like special way how you want to format your code, then it brings problems because everyone just wants to, I want to do it like this, and then there's discussions in merge request, no, I want it to be like that, I thought with that we agreed, but when you have a tool like Prettier and you agree on rules, and rules are like set up within the team, within after some discussions, then there's no discussions later. So we set up Prettier, we format code like this, and that's it. Yep, please.
I have a question which is more like a topic of discussion to the audience. So since most people here are using some kind of React or Next.js, I assume that most guys are on Redux, right? Using Redux libraries for state management. So has anyone actually played around different libraries for state management, something like MobX, and maybe noticed some kind of productivity gains because of that? Could you share some of it?
I can answer on that. So we're not actually by purpose not using Redux. We're using a library called Zustand.
Which one?
Zustand.
Just
It's called in German like Justin or something like that. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Yeah. But it's a really lightweight state management and extremely simple. If you're working with React specifically, it looks like React code, like native React code almost. So in that sense, like it's much easier for us to work with because we figured out like we don't have the project that we had didn't require the complexities of Redux itself. So it was an easier way to work with, and I haven't had problems with that. So it's something to look into.
But what do you sacrifice for this?
I can actually also add to this because we are also using it. And like we have like multiple front-end projects, and on the old one we still use Redux. But for some new ones we also like recently I was also like a big advocate of using Zustand, which we're just now successfully using. One of the great things about it is like that you can actually have all of the stuff. When you start a project, it's like super simple, but you can add like all of the stuff that Redux does, but it's all like super configurable. So all the features you can add on, but only use only the ones which you want and need. So it doesn't like prescribe the super boilerplate the approach that Redux uses, but you can like opt into any of those features that you want to.
Sounds cool.
Or use Vue.js to the opinion state management.
So as a downside, the only thing I would say is like Redux's developer tools and debugging is actually easier. At least I find.
You can hook up Zustand with Redux DevTools actually. Yeah.
I know they had their own tool a while ago.
No, but we are doing that.
I tried it a few years back. I think.
There's definitely not.
Awesome. Then my point is nice. Cool. But let's give a round of applause for Kristaps.
Thank you.